Okay, let's talk about the 300-pound gorilla in the room, CPTSD. Now, to be perfectly honest, this is a subject that I've avoided for quite a long time. I understand it, but I've avoided it because it touches me so incredibly deeply, as I'm sure, quite sure, that it has touched and affected you very deeply, being victims of narcissistic personality disorder. CPTSD is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So how's that differ from PTSD? PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is generally the witnessing or the experiencing of a single traumatic event, such as a traumatic event in war, a car accident, a sexual abuse. Complex PTSD is the prolonging of those abuses, where there is no obvious or available escape. You are being held to these repeated abuses. These abuses include, but are certainly not limited to, sexual abuse, specifically and most commonly child sexual abuse, domestic violence, violence within the household, emotional violence, physical violence. And when you are exposed to a combination or even one of these violent acts continuously over a period of time where you are not allowed to escape, where you literally cannot escape. Some of those examples are most commonly when you're a child and you are witnessing the violence over and over and over again. There's nowhere to go as a child, is there? As a child, 3, 4, 5, 13, 14, 15, 16, it's very difficult to pick up and go out on the street on your own. So you're left there witnessing some horrific abuses. Now, those abuses can start off with you as a child in your crib, witnessing the violence between your parents. You may have memories as young as 3 and 4 years old of being sexually abused by someone close to your family. You may have been victimized emotionally by continually being told that you're worthless, that you'll never amount to anything, that you're a sick little bastard. And as this child absorbs all of these abuses, they somehow accept this as a normalcy. Because when you're young, you don't have too much to compare to it. And specifically when you're young, you do not have the mental facilities to process it. Now imagine, if you will, being a child, being in the crib, and watching horrific violence between your parents. Then, as that same child, you are being screamed at, degraded. Then, You're being physically abused, beaten, your hair pulled, your head shaken back and forth, your body shaken. All along being told how worthless you are. This is the complexity of PTSD. You have nowhere to escape. If you're a spouse of a narcissistic abuser, perhaps you do not have the means, financially, emotionally, socially, to escape your abuser. You are left there, perhaps with your child or children, to continuously have to endure these abuses. These abuses have profound effects on us that even we don't realize. They're compounded on top of each other, and they start to take over our psyche and our identity. Think of the child who has been sexually abused, shown pornographic images of other young children, and then telling one of his parents about the abuse. And the parent reacts with a beating. Think of the parent who puts their children or child into situations with a family friend or acquaintance or relative where that parent knows that child will in fact be sexually abused. Not only are these experiences very difficult to process, even if you're an adult, but as an adult, think of how difficult it is to identify where your underlying problems are. Why do you have this feeling of low self-worth, low self-esteem? Why did you self-sabotage throughout your adult life? In fact, if you have, like I have. Overindulgence in alcohol or perhaps drugs. Low inhibitions to sexual activity. Risky behavior. Depression. Bipolar disorder. Anxiety. These symptoms could very well, and most times are, result from the complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Again, what differentiates complex PTSD from PTSD is the inability to escape those surroundings, that torture, those abuses, and you are subjected to witness and experience and be re-victimized over and over and over again. Complex could also be defined as combination, compounding, one on top of another, on top of another. While the narcissist maintains their supply of abusing you. This is something that I'm now presently in my personal life really digging into. You see, I had no idea of how these abuses as a child really affected me in my adult life. In my adult life, I never dealt with these instances of violence and abuse. I stuck my chest out, held my head up high, and said to myself and others around me, I'm strong. It's not going to bother me. But I'm going to share with you today that it did bother me. It affected me a great deal. It affected a lot of my actions. It affected a lot of my decision making. I'm embarrassed for some of the things I did when I was younger. I can honestly say that I've hurt no one intentionally. I could tell you that I was really very poor at relationships, even though I had a 18-year-old marriage to a very good woman and a wonderful mother. But I never really trusted. I never felt comfortable enough to be loved. See, I was always getting the messages that I was worthless. I'm a piece of shit. I was getting those messages in physical abuse, verbal abuse, and for many, many years, sexual abuse. But I thought I was stronger than that as an adult. I thought that that was my past. I thought that it wouldn't bother me. And it did. Always having low self-esteem. Always engaging in risky behavior. And always having a subliminal message in my mind that I wasn't worth it. I can tell you this. With the help of my son's mother and I, we turned out to be very good parents. And I'm grateful for that. And that's not a narcissistic statement. The results are tangible. My son loves both of us very much. Now, if I can only learn to love myself. It's ironic, huh? In summary, complex post-traumatic stress disorder is where you are constantly bombarded with various forms of abuse, and you have no escape. So you are left there to tolerate and absorb it. And what you're feeling today, possibly as an adult, is the summary of all those many abuses. Thank you for allowing me to share something that's very deep, very personal. If you like to share, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much for your time again, and I'm wishing you peace this week.